Hello! Coming at you from my empty seed shed, so I apologize for any echo. But I got my boards put together. I went through, this spring, before corn was emerged, I picked 2 hybrids in my corn plot and went out there every day for 6 days. I missed day 7 because I was gone, but as soon as I could see the top of a spike, every 24 hours, I flagged it with a certain color coding and then a date on it. Because we all know Emergence is huge, and maybe don't emphasize the importance of even Emergence enough, which is why we are here today with this. And then this is also going to show, particularly with my other hybrid, the importance of spacing, but that could, of course, could be in and of itself a whole other topic, but we'll touch on it a little bit today. So what we're seeing here is 7 foot 5 inches worth of ears. The reason I picked that is because the boards that I had in my garage are leftover, and I did not want to use good lumber for this, and actually it worked out. I really, in theory, wanted to do 10 foot, but 7 foot 5 inches works in that 10 foot doesn't fit in my pickup. This barely fit in my pickup, so it worked out perfect anyway. But this is my 107-day 20742 Smart Stacks. The plot was planted April 29th, I think, 28th or 29th. I don't remember for sure. Whatever that Tuesday was, I think it was a Tuesday. And planted at roughly 31,000 population. I did not do, because I thought of it after I left the plot, to do a final stand count on it, but it's probably in that 29 to 30. Each of these spots here where I had the flags, there was one plant in the 7 foot 5 inches that had some green snap. This is a green snap ear, or green snap plant that did try throwing an ear, but it's half rotting. I thought about leaving it off of there, but thought, well, that's still a really good example of what green snap can do, even if all you get is a half or even a quarter of an ear. But we've got some spacing going on. This was a corn on corn plot. Like I said, planted at roughly 31,000, probably ending up with 29 for a final stand on things. There was a few places with trash being an issue at planting, and then of course we had lovely spring winds that made trash an issue, covering up the row. The first half of May this year, we were cool and wet. Stuff did not start emerging out here until the 18th or 19th, when I started doing the flags, is when things started popping. So sat there for 3 weeks before we had things come out of the ground. It would have been amazing if the first half of May could have been remotely close to what April was, but yeah, you get what you get. So here we are. It turned into a pretty good example. In looking, this particular ear came up, this plant that's producing this ear was on May 24th. The next 3 are May 23rd. This is the 21st, the 19th. This was a 21st, 22nd, 20th, 21st, and 19th. This hybrid compared to the 105-day that I did it on. The 105-day has been around for quite a few years, 20563, for those of you familiar with the channel system. Looking at it, the flags on it, just looking when I stepped back and looked, and when I was done flagging everything, the 205 emerged slower, but everything came up. I mean, there was some days where I had like 14 flags come up. I did roughly 20 foot worth of flags, both rows on either side. And this one was so sporadic. There was some days where I had 2, there was some that were 7. It was really up and down. So I was anxious to really see when it come time for looking at the ears. I went through and calculated up using 30,000 population, which is maybe being generous, but it was a round number just for today's purposes and explanation, and counted rows around and length of the rows at 30,000 population divided by 80,000 kernels, since that's our typical There could be a whole debate on that, of course. I had that discussion with a past co-worker in, do we need to be using 70,000 or 90,000 depending on the size of the kernels. I've just always stuck with 80. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, so did that. First ear, this one emerged on the 19th, was 16 by 46, yielding at 276. The ear beside it emerged 2 days later with a 12 by 43 at a 193. So you've got a 80 bushel difference in these two ears. Decent space, particularly these first four are relatively almost perfect. The third ear was emerged on the 20th of May, 16 by 45 long, 270. So very comparable to the one that emerged on the 19th versus the one on the 21st. On the 22nd, we had a 14 by 49. So we kept the length, but definitely lost rows around compared to the 20th and the 19th, but still on the 22nd, come up with 257. So there's all the way from 193 to 276 just in a matter of 3 days of emergence yield difference just on ears. Then we hit the green snap plant, which that was a May 21st emergence. Then moving into May 19th, which would be representative of that first year down there, it's 264 on the bushels. Another 19th went 310 for this one, so even a huge difference. Beats me. This one was 18 by 46 and this one was 16 by 44. So we had something going on in that first few stages of figuring or developing, determining rows around versus length. On this hybrid, I noticed how even and almost perfect it was as far as length of rows, but number of rows around definitely different out here in this particular spot. Moving on to the 21st, 16 by 47 again, which comes up to 282, but definitely a space, not the perfect space here like we'd like to see, and 2 days emergence difference, even just in this, is just shy of 30 bushel difference between this ear and this ear. Then moving into the 23rd, this one was kind of an anomaly. Doesn't really help prove anything, but I think it's attributed to the space distance because these next two here were all the 23rd, but clearly we have a difference. This is 282 or 288, excuse me, and then this one is also 288. But I'm confident that this spacing is what attributed to that. Moving into another 23rd was 294 with 16 rows by 49 long, and then this loner out here emerged on the 24th of May. He's 14 around and 50 long at 262.5. So yeah, just really interesting to see. I was really hoping, particularly on this hybrid, for some way different variability. It did cross my mind to measure from the ground to the base of the ear on the plant and put that on here, but just for the sake of time, and do we really, in the grand scheme of things, do we really care, or is it important how far off, the ear height difference matter? This is a very flat field, heavy dirt, so it's kind of a moot point, but it would help showcase and prove the emergence dates, but I already had those flagged, so that I kind of thought that would be pointless. But still a few things, like I said earlier, it kind of comes down to this, what I did here, showing the importance of spacing alone. I know it's not perfect. It didn't 100% pan out, but I do think there are some things that help prove a point in the importance of emergence. It would have been really truly something, bad news bears, but would have been truly something to see, anything that green snapped if it fell on a certain date, like holy cow, that would have been a huge thing, but still really good information. So there's the 207.42. Moving into now, where's my edge? There we go. The 205.63. And a few more spacing issues here. Here's a double. and still pretty good, but there is a difference in emergence as well as yield on this one. But we've got, so starting over here, I've got May 20th, and that one was a 256. Here was another May 20th, but this was a full-blown green snap, no ear. So I just left the screw alone and empty just to prove, to show distance, spacing and all that kind of stuff. Then we moved to a May 21st of 241. Here's a May 23rd of 204. So just a difference, 40 bushel, 35 bushel difference in 2 days emergence there, plus a lot more tip back as we move this direction. May 20th is a 228, May 21st is 234, and then May 22nd, 264. So we got 20th, 21, 22, 23, and 21 down there. You know, a little bit of spacing here, but decent. It's not a huge gap or super close together like we have down here on this end. But just interesting, 264, 234, 228, 204. And then, you know, the tip back is crazy. This hybrid doesn't normally tip back like this, but this is the second time. I didn't have very much of this out this year, so I had it in the plot and then on one other field. Because of a seed availability issue, everybody hogged it and I didn't get to it fast enough. But this is a really good, wide, you know, can go not 100% everywhere, but definitely a diversible hybrid that can go a lot of different places. And the field that I had it on, the box that I had out, super even emergence, some of the best emergence on the farm, heavy dirt, flat elevation, but saw the same kind of tip back on it. So not sure. That would have been planted at 34,000, whereas this was at 30 or 31. But anyway, moving on to the next year, this is the 23rd of May, this is 14 around, 44 long. In looking at this hybrid as well, which this hybrid does flex, there's a lot more disparity in total ear length versus the 207, whereas that was super consistent on ear length, but the rows around change depending on circumstances. This is 231, emerged on May 23rd. This is May 21st, emerged 236, but we've got some difference there, so I'm confident that that kind of helped make things up on that side of things. This one is amazing. This helps prove the point on spacing and how critical spacing is. This first year emerged on May 21st. So you're thinking, okay, that should probably be the little bit better one, right? Well, right next to it emerged May 23rd, but most likely, and I would clearly have to go back and look at exact weather on those days, but this is 16 by 42 and this is 12 by 48. So this was, I'm guessing, the more vigorous plant that took away from it because it merged 2 days later. Whatever, you know, maybe we had better sunshine on the 23rd versus the 21st. Again, beats me, I did not write that down, but could go back and find that. Finish out the board on May 23rd with a 252 bushel. But go back to these two, 252 on this ear that merged 2 days later than the 216. So spacing, holy cow, get your spacing. You know, if you've got, you know, this is just 7 foot and we do 17 foot 5 inches. So I'm just what, dang near half. You know, if we had a couple more of these, what kind of effect does that cause on overall yield if you have 2 or 3 of these in a matter of an acre, or the 1/1000th of an acre, and then you multiply that? Huge, just huge. So spacing. Even emergence is awesome. This hybrid, and maybe it was the spot that I picked, which I went in there and just kind of went right in the middle of my 20 foot for both of these. Wanted to get some disparity as well as, you know, show spacing as well. So I know there's definitely room for improvement, but I feel like the basics still get across to the importance of even emergence. And every year is different, but it still comes down to even emergence. The number one thing that I'm hearing so far from my growers about when I ask them, what's one thing you could go back and do different this year to make right now better? And they said emergence and overall initial stand that leads to full-blown good ears is still the biggest thing. You know, would love to have heard that maybe we could have done a little better job of watering, but we were hot and dry the last half or 2/3 of the season, to where everybody still wishes that they could go back and replant it differently and better. Now, whether that's different company or different genetics within one company, whether that's an update on the planter, I didn't ask that detail. We'll discuss that over the winter time, but yeah, get a better stand. So thanks for tuning in. By all means, holler with questions, comments, concerns, celebrations. I definitely would prefer more celebrations or positive comments, but if you have any input or ideas on how to do this a little different or a little better, any theories, you know, it doesn't need to be a company versus company thing. We're all in this together, working for making the growers profitable and successful is how we get to be profitable and successful then. So that is number one, and that's priority, and that's really the only thing, is to make them win, and then we win. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.